how this has developed from a small business into the huge business you are today. Can you tell me why and when the initial nursery opened at Cardwell Bay?
Well, my father bought the garden centre at Cardwell Bay in 1962. Really, at the time, he was working both as a travelling salesman during the day and an ambulance driver at night. And he saw the garden centre as a way where he could have a bit of long-term security, both for himself and for his family. So in 1962, we took over what was at the time a very small nursery in Cardwell Bay.
Right. So your father was a local man and had the foresight to see that there was development in this area?
Yes, my dad was born, he was born on Matthew Crescent in 1937.
Well, not Midton, is it?
Midton
area, yeah.
So I was born in 1937 to Irish parents and had numerous brothers and sisters. So it was a very busy house at the time. As I say, he moved from job to job. I think he's one of those men when you spoke to, he'd had so many different jobs, he could almost, if you asked him, had he ever done this? Yes, I've done that.
He could turn his hand to anything.
He could, he was a jack of all trades.
And he had horticultural business behind him too?
No, at the time he didn't have any horticultural experience. This was actually his first venture into horticulture. Although his brother and his father have both had a bit of horticultural experience, so they both joined the business at different times and gave him a hand to grow and to expand in Cardwell Bay.
And then there was a move considered, and why did they choose Landiston Bay for you?
Landiston Bay was almost a default choice. At the time, it was in the late 60s, he started looking for a new site, really because he felt he had outgrown Cardwell Bay. Because the site was quite restricted, there wasn't an awful lot of development you could do with it. So he looked at several sites, and some were either out of the budget or were just not suitable for development. Landiston Bay was owned by Gourock estates at the time, and it was farmland, but it wasn't good farmland, so they wanted rid of it, essentially. And my father looked at it as being somewhere which had the potential to grow and expand the business on, looking as far forward as today, but also because ultimately it was cheap.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, well, you see, it's a lot of land because there's not only your buildings here, you've got a massive car park, which is a very encouraging sign for the customer.
Well, you have to have a large car park. It's because we're an out-of-town location. The vast majority of our customers travel here by car. It's very rarely full, but in peak seasons, in spring and summer.
But you get bus loads as well.
We do, and we always encourage our bus customers to come along.
Yeah, and I noticed some of the old folks' homes. It's a day out for them, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. We work quite closely with a number of the local homes, and as you say, it's an opportunity for some of their residents to have a wee day out, come down for some lunch.
Yeah. That's a big treat for them. Yeah,
it
is a big treat for them. So, how did you develop over the years? How did it start? What was your merchandise originally?
Well, gardening has always been at the core of the business, so it's always been plants and accessories. As we've developed over the years and as the physical unit we have has expanded, we've diversified into many other areas. One of the main reasons for that, to be honest, is gardening is not an all-year-round hobby. So where we have peak seasons for gardening, we still need to sell something out with those times. So we've diversified over the years into the vast array of products that we have now.
Yeah, you're almost a supermarket.
We are. We actually think of ourselves more of a department store.
Yeah, definitely.
But gardening is still at the core of the business.
Yes, yeah. One of the features from the start was the cafe upstairs.
Yes.
And it was quite small. It was overlooking the Landiston Bay itself. And then you had a cafe downstairs, and then you have this huge restaurant cafe. Did you see that developing?
Well, the original one was built through demand. My mother and my father ran the business in those days, and we sold cans of juice and soft drinks and what have you. People were always asking for a cup of tea or a cup of coffee. And so we decided, really, what we did was build a second floor onto the existing building, which about 3/4 of which was turned over to a gifty in Ethereum.
And what year would that be in?
I would have been, I don't know the exact year to be honest, but it would have been the early 80s, I think. And that lasted us for about 10 years. And then again, demand outgrew the area that we had. And the one that was downstairs was actually the family home at the time. So we built another family home and we converted that one into the restaurant. That one was about twice the size of the original one. And again, that one did us quite well for about 7 or 8 years. And again, demand outgrew the area that we had. So the current one is our biggest single investment to date. And when we built it, we built in an additional 15% more seats than we thought we would need. Really so that we made sure it was going to last us for some time.
More than 10 years this time.
Yes, it was a big spend, so we want to make sure that it, it lasts us for quite a while.
Yeah. It's a very popular place. It's even local people. It's a day out.
Well, the restaurant is the hub of the business now, and there are very few people visit the garden centre without visiting the restaurant, even if it's just for a cup of tea.
Just a tea or a coffee, yeah.
So it's
and I
very
noticed
important.
even that at Christmas, having grandchildren and coming at Christmas time, they love to go into the restaurant as well as seeing Santa Claus and using all your funfair things. Yeah.
Well, Santa's been coming here now since the 70s. We bought the first of our sort of funfair equipment in the 90s, which was the carousel. What we now have is two outside companies who actually operate their equipment on the seafront at large in summer.
Oh yes.
And as is the way with the weather in this area, they've no use for them in the winter. So we have an arrangement whereby they bring their equipment along and it sits in alongside our grotto or our own equipment for them.
So it helps two companies.
Well, we're helping two large companies as well as ourselves. So our grotto is very popular. It's almost unique in its size and the content. There's not a lot around that's
the
like
boys
it.
used to love shooting the water pistols.
Yeah, that's very
that
popular.
Was the boys thing.
That's always the boys thing. The girls not so much, but the boys certainly love it.
Well, the girls find something too, but the boys love them. And it's nice to know that there's something like that local too. You just have to go to Glasgow to get a Santa Claus. It used to be Lewis's in Glasgow in the days gone by, but it's nice to do something like that. So, how many staff do you have now, full-time and part-time? Because you're a big employer.
We are. It varies depending on the time of year. At any one time we would have about 60 full-time staff and about another 40 part-time staff. And that would increase in the spring, which is our peak period. We could normally put about another 20% onto that over the peak periods. But as I say, at any one time we've got about 100 employees, almost all from the local area.
Well, I know a lot of young students enjoy being here. It's a lovely outdoor job. It's different from the studies, and they're earning some money during the holidays.
The students are great.
That nowadays.
We've had probably hundreds of students over the years, and they're very good. They're very hardworking, and to be honest, they all learn something. Quite often we're their first job. We tend to get them either at the tail end of school or at the start of university and college. So we're quite often the first employer for many of these people.
And I hope they don't put
some do and some
don't
don't.
put monoblocking down.